Star defender for the North Carolina Courage professional soccer team, Jaylene Hinkle has always found her place on the field.
It's just like this identity that starts to become a part of you, and especially in college, like you're a student athlete, it always was with you.
Jaylene's love for the game started on the youth soccer fields of Denver, Colorado. Raised in a Christian home, she learned about her identity in Christ and committed her life to Jesus when she was 12.
At that age, it was like, okay, I'm starting to connect the dots, and I want to see where this takes me. Like, I want to find out who God is.
But as a teenager going into high school, she was more concerned about becoming a better soccer player and making friends.
I don't think I ever hesitated or doubted my faith. Yeah, I know that I'm good and the Lord created me, but it's like, I want to fit in.
Jaylene had a stellar high school career, earning a full ride to Texas Tech University. There, she thrived on and off the field, and even continued going to church. But now everyone knew her only as Jaylene the soccer player. And again, she found herself caught between two worlds.
And on paper, I was doing really well, but inside, it's just I'm kind of miserable right now. I mean, there was Saturdays where you'd go out and you would hang out with your friends and you're partying, and then I'm I have church tomorrow morning, and then I'm in church and I'm what did I just do Saturday night? Just those wrestles of I want to fit in here, but I also want to fit in here, but where do I actually fit?
Then her lifelong dream came within reach. Her coach told her she had the talent to go pro, if she wanted.
I was well, yeah, I want to go to the next level. I feel I've always wanted to go to the next level. It just always seemed if that was an option, that I would want to do it.
But going into the spring season of her junior year, Jaylene began having excruciating sharp pain in her left leg. An MRI revealed she had an extensive blood clot, prompting doctors to perform exploratory surgery.
He goes, your vein is 80% closed, so you're not getting any blood flow. The fact that it's that close, we can't get our tools in there. So our next step would be in the second surgery, if it doesn't open overnight, somehow on the blood thinners that they'd already put me on, their next step was to put a stent in. And he's I'm so sorry to tell you this, but if we had to put a stent in, you can't play sports. You can't play contact sports. It's you being hit could internally cause bleeding. It would be life-threatening at that point. The one place where people were telling me identity was about to be taken away, and I was just, everything just came crashing down.
Jaylene, along with her parents, turned to God in prayer.
The first thing that my mom said to me was, we're just gonna pray. We're just gonna pray all night long. I know that you have the power either way this goes, and I'm not trying to make a deal with you, but if you allow me to play soccer, this is gonna be for you. I think at that point too, I pretty much was this internal battle with the Lord of please don't take this from me.
The morning after Jaylene's second operation, the doctor spoke with the Hinkles.
There's no reason it shouldn't have happened, but he was your vein was completely open. And he was from it to go 80% to completely open, he was I am not one to believe in God, but you have gotten a miracle. You got your miracle.
Jaylene made a full recovery and committed all in on her faith.
Yeah, it was there's no turning back after that one. I wanted to know everything and anything about the Lord.
After a successful senior year, Jaylene was called up into nationals and began playing for the Women's Professional League. Then in 2017, she was invited to play for America in 2 international friendlies games.
When you honestly take a second and step back and almost have that outer body experience of just, I'm being invited to play the game I love for my country. There's an emblem of the US flag on your chest. That's huge.
Then, days before the event, it was announced that the team jersey was designed to honor the LGBT community. Jaylene again turned to God.
I just felt so convicted in my spirit that it wasn't my job to wear this jersey. And I gave myself 3 days to just seek and pray and determine what he was asking of me to do in the situation.
In the face of opposition and social media backlash, Jaylene withdrew from the games with the support of her teammates.
I'm essentially giving up the one dream little girls dream about their entire life. and I'm saying no too. It was very disappointing. And I think that's where the peace trumped the disappointment, because I knew in my spirit I was doing the right thing. I knew that I was being obedient. And like, just because you're obedient doesn't make it easy.
Today, she plays for the NC Courage of the National Women's Soccer League, where she boldly proclaims her faith and identity in Christ.
I don't question his goodness. Like, I know he's good. I know he's faithful. And if I never get a national team call up again, like, that just is part of his plan, and that's okay. And maybe this was why you were meant to play soccer. Just to show other believers, like, to be obedient.
Well, welcome to another episode of Christ and Culture. My name is Pastor Jeff Short, and we're continuing to talk about Jalynn Hinkle, the Christian soccer player, professional soccer player, who is standing fast for the faith against a lot of LGBT backlash over her refusal to agree to wear the LGBT pride jersey in competition. And rather than wear that LGBT pride jersey and promote homosexuality, which she stands against as a Christian, she refused to, and she politely and quietly dropped out of the tournament. And she didn't make a big deal about it at the time. She just said, I don't feel comfortable promoting something that is immoral according to my faith. Okay? So she didn't make a big deal about it, but the LGBTQ community was offended, and they made a big deal about it, and they tried to embarrass her and assassinate her character and rake her over the coals in order to get her to feel guilty and ashamed, and to eventually change and begin to come alongside of them and their sin in order to feel good about their own community. Well, she didn't, and she stuck to her guns, and she did not play in that women's professional tournament representing the United States, and that was in 2017. Well, 2018 is here, and they had the June Pride Month again, and they had the women's soccer players represent the LGBT movement by wearing the gay pride rainbow emblem on their jerseys. And Jalynn Hinkle was not invited because she had already made it clear that she didn't want to compete if she had to wear that gay pride uniform. Well, lo and behold, she was invited this month, July, when I'm doing this recording, just a few days ago. She was invited because the American team has had a number of injuries, and they need someone else with her skills to be on the team. And she is a very good soccer player, women's soccer player. She's a very good professional soccer player and one of the best. And the American team asked her to be on the team in July. So she didn't have to go through the LGBTQ pride rainbow jersey controversy, because that's over now. July is not Gay Pride Month. June never should have been, but that's the way it is in our culture. You get special interest groups, left-wing radical groups, who push and promote and pressure and bully their way into every corner of society, and you get this June Pride Month. And July now is on us, and there's no Pride Month, and Jalynn can play, and they don't force her to wear the LGBT uniform, and she is going to accept. As far as I can understand, she's going to say yes, because this would not compromise her Christian faith. Well, I was reading an article by a really biased journalist. And I don't know why, but this journalist doesn't even say her last name. It's Stephanie Y. Maybe that is her last name, but it's very strange it would be just one letter, Y, Stephanie Y. But she has written an article against Jaylene saying it's offensive to even allow her on the team, knowing that she does not fully support the gay rights movement. And I was critiquing this article as just simply biased, hypocritical, unfair, but typical of the LGBTQ movement's tactics to try to get their way. They basically pressure groups and companies and politicians and celebrities into submission to their perverted cause. But let me read more of this article and then make some more commentaries as we explore this issue further. It says, she writes, U.S. soccer's mission is to build the sport of soccer in the United States of America at every level. Perhaps for some people, that means the national teams must do whatever it takes to win, and if Hinkle helps the team win, then she helps women's soccer accomplish its goal. Note, and this is the journalist note, the Pride Month rainbow numbers seem like they're here to stay. So should a national team consider someone who will refuse to play for them a full month out of every year? In other words, she's still sore about the fact that Jaylene Hinkle would not play for them during the month of June because she had to wear that rainbow LGB jersey. So she's still hurting about that. And then she says, so should a national team consider someone who will refuse to play for them for a full month out of every year? And for whom is the United States soccer team winning, and why? Well, they're winning for the United States, and that doesn't mean just the LGBT community, and it's not right that the LGBT community should dictate terms for the entire population of the United States, the way they did when Barack Obama was president. The Olympic delegation to Russia was a disgrace because it consisted of all of these LGBT representatives, and it was as if the whole United States were queer. And when I looked at that lineup, I said, wait a minute, this is not an accurate delegation. This is some politically leftist concoction that totally misrepresents the United States. The United States is not queer. It's not a queer nation. But you would have thought that with the people Barack Obama picked to go represent the U.S. in the Russian Olympics in Sochi. Well, now we have the same kind of thing here. We have this writer trying to say, well, the LGBT community has to speak for all Americans. Wrong. They speak for 0.11% or something. She goes on, for LGBTQ fans, many of whom have experienced rejection of their families, their friends, and their communities, they see that prejudice doesn't matter to U.S. soccer. The Federation will wear a rainbow band on one arm and use the other to beckon a homophobe into the organization. So they're calling Jaylene Hinkle a homophobe again, and she's used that term like about 4 or 5 times now in the entire article to try to discredit Jaylene and her stand for Christ, which is totally unfair. She has a right to not agree that homosexuality is acceptable. She has a right to her own faith, and she doesn't have to explain to the LGBTQ community or get their permission or get them to bless her to play soccer. I mean, after all, we have freedom of religion here, and Christianity teaches that homosexuality is a sin, so it makes sense that Jaylin would not want to promote it by wearing a jersey with the gay pride flag on it, rainbow colors. But the article continues. It's not a both sides situation. One side wants to stop being marginalized and live in a society that allows them the same rights and opportunities as everyone else, and the other side believes they can and should deny this. No one's denying any LGBT people from playing soccer. It's just that this athlete doesn't want to wear the colors of the LGBT crowd. She doesn't want to identify with them. She doesn't want to promote their cause. I wish this journalist and the LGBT activists would understand. Simply not participating in your cause doesn't make you anti-LGBT. It isn't making you an enemy of this special interest group. She just didn't want to play if she had to wear another person's emblem. And it makes total sense because that cause of the other cause, the LGBT cause, is contrary to Bible. So it makes sense that she wouldn't want to be a part of that. This article says one group wants to exist freely and the other doesn't want them to be able to do this. Yeah, freely, except if you don't take their position, then you're not free to disagree. See the hypocrisy here? She wants to force Jaylin to wear the colors of the LGBT cause. And she doesn't want any soccer player to be free to not do that. And yet she says she just wants to be free to be. Yeah, there's a hypocrisy there. That is what the rainbow jersey number signifies, support for the LGBT community to be able to live happily, fulfilling lives free from discrimination. No, that's not just what it means. It means normalizing a sin. That's what it means. So it's not just, gee, we just want to live our lives free from harassment. No, it's all this other stuff that you want to do. You want to have political pressure. You want to get people fired. You want to get people tossed out of their political positions because they don't agree with you. You want to shame athletes because they don't support you. All of these psychological tactics don't equate the LGBT community just saying, we just want to live free. No, you want to live and force other people to accept exactly what you're doing and bless what you're doing and promote what you're doing. And as Christians, we need to say, no, we're not going to promote your cause. You can do what you want to do, preferably out of sight, so we don't have to see this disgusting activity taking place. But no, we're not going to promote what you do because it's wrong. It's immoral. It was illegal for centuries because it's so disgusting. But okay, if it's not illegal, it's still immoral. And now you want Christians to promote it. No. And that's hate if we don't promote your cause? No. This article goes on. I can't speak for anyone in the organization or in the women's soccer locker room. Plenty of people have homophobic co-workers and say good morning, do their jobs, say good night, and leave. That doesn't make the situation fine. Okay, homophobic. Is Jaylin Hinkle homophobic? No. The strict literal definition of that word, homo, man, phobic, fear of man, fear of homos, fear of gays, fear of LGBT. No, she's not afraid of LGBT people who identify that way. She's not afraid of them. That's the one strict literal definition. And most Christians and people who oppose the agenda that is put forth by the LGBT crowd, they're not afraid of the LGBT people. So what does she mean? What does this article mean? Homophobic. It means we don't support and morally back what they're doing, what they're trying to do in society. And that makes us homophobic and hateful. That makes this athlete who simply didn't want to wear the colors of the LGBT flag, that makes her hateful. That makes her mean and bigoted. That's simply nonsense. It's not true. In the interview with the 700 Club, Jaylene said she does not have any hate for the LGBT people. She has teammates that are LGBT, coaches, lesbian coaches, and women athletics. We know that there are lesbians to a higher percentage because of the athleticism, the toughness, the manliness, so to speak, of women's sports. And so she's had to work and cooperate and play on the same teams as LGBT people. She has no hate or animosity toward them. She doesn't discriminate against them. She just didn't want to wear the LGBT flag colors and support the cause, their cause, not her cause, their cause, during Gay Pride Month. And she was willing to sit out of this prestigious soccer tournament to abstain from doing so. And you would think that the LGBT people would just leave it at that, but they didn't. They want her submission. They want her to grovel on her hands and knees to them and say, I'm sorry, and do penance and do all this stuff like many celebrities do. If you see some Hollywood celebrity or athlete accidentally say something that offends the LGBT, quote, community, oftentimes the next thing you'll see is that they'll be groveling and, oh, I'm sorry, go on an apology tour to try to seek absolution for their grave sin of not supporting 100% the LGBT agenda. And it's sickening. It's really sickening. If they don't do that, oftentimes they'll get fired. The latest Hollywood apology tour was Scarlett Johansson, the female actress, who was playing, I guess, in a movie that hasn't come out yet. She's playing a transgender person, and the LGBT community was offended that a straight, quote, straight person was playing the part of a trans person. And so what happened was Scarlett Johansson, who had signed a contract, already been cast for the role, she resigned from her role of playing this trans person because she didn't want to offend the LGBT community. So that's what gay activists want. They want submission. You have to agree with them 100%, or else you're on their list and they'll come after you and they'll persist until you are gone. Your history. Now, this article continues. And legally, the U.S. Soccer may not be in a position to just drop Hinkle over her sincerely held religious belief unless accommodating her belief would be unreasonably difficult or expensive for the Federation. See above about refusing to play 1 month out of the year. So this journalist is saying that's an undue burden. She was not willing to play 1 month of the whole year, and so that's worth firing someone over. If everyone can more or less get along and the team's performance isn't suffering, well, the situation is what it is. For fans, though, there should be understanding. If they feel anger or rejection or sadness. Soccer should be for everyone, and being asked to cheer for someone who has publicly demeaned your identity can make people feel unwelcome. So just because she didn't want to play and wear that uniform, it has demeaned the identity of every LGBTQ, RSDV, WXYZ person. Oh my goodness, this journalist is making such a big deal about this controversy. She is causing the controversy and then making a big deal about it and fanning the flames of this controversy because she's offended by someone not wanting to wear the gay flag. Soccer should be for everyone. And being asked to cheer for someone who has publicly demeaned your identity. She didn't publicly demean anyone. She just said, I'm not going to wear the gay pride uniform. That's it. She didn't demean people unless everything someone does that isn't 100% what you want them to do is demeaning to you. She should have played because that's an insult to our community. Well, if you're insulted because somebody doesn't want to play soccer because they have to promote your cause, then you have a sensitivity problem. You need to recognize we live in a free country. People don't have to promote your cause if they don't want to promote your cause. And a Christian has every reason to not want to promote the LGBT cause. So the article goes on. Jaylin Hinkle can have her beliefs, but so can fans. They can believe that U.S. soccer actions are hurtful and dismissive and signal that people with similar discriminatory beliefs as Hinkle are welcome in the same fandom as them. And that, quite frankly, stinks. So in other words, now the LGBT community is offended by soccer. First they were offended by Jaylin because she wouldn't wear their uniform. Now they're offended by U.S. soccer because they're hiring Jaylin to come in after Gay Pride Month and play. So there's no pleasing these people. They will get their pound of flesh. If it's not Jaylin, they're going to take it out on U.S. soccer. And you know what? There may be boycotts. There may be calls for the president of women's soccer to resign. There may be protests at the stadiums. There may be all kinds of things just because this woman doesn't want to play with a gay pride uniform. Isn't that silly? Isn't that goofy? Isn't that hypocritical? And now they're going to come after soccer. And if that doesn't work, they're going to come after everybody else. It's just a shame that we have to live in a nation where you have these radical groups that dictate policy for everyone. I hope soccer doesn't cave in, and I'm praying that Jaylin never, ever caves in. I think she's a good role model for us all. We need to pray for her and congratulate her for doing the right thing. Well, that's it for me today. We'll talk to you later. Catch you on another Christ and Culture. God bless.